Hey, everyone. Welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. We've got a great guest today. He's best known for his Emmy Award-winning documentary, When I Walk. He's a director, producer, writer, and disability rights activist. He is also the founder of the nonprofit organization AXS Lab and of AXS Map, a crowdsourced Google Map-based platform which rates the accessibility of businesses. Please join me in welcoming Jason DaSilva. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Really good. You ready for 20 questions?
Of course, that sounds great.
Okay, number one, tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
Yeah, so thank you. My name is Jason DaSilva. Thanks for having me here. A little bit about myself. Oh, you shut the window. Hold on, I'm just shutting the window. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah, so thank you for having me here. A little bit about myself. My name is Jason DaSilva. I was born and raised in Vancouver, and I live in New York City now. So I've been living here for the past 20 years. So it's been a long time, and I work here as you said before, as a filmmaker and disability rights activist.
That's great. And just to repeat for our audience, Jason is joining us from New York City. If you check out his YouTube channel, you'll see all of these great shots of his neighborhood in New York. So check that out for sure. Question two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
So I think the key piece of knowledge that really makes me different is, along with other things, but the fact that I've started an organization called AXS Lab, which it's a nonprofit and has a mission to serve people with different disabilities through media and technology. So that really came from my filmmaking background and the fact that in 2005, I myself was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and I didn't know what to do. So I ended up making a couple films after that. But then I created the nonprofit because I saw it as a way that people like myself, people with disabilities, could continue working and continue making films or making media to better the world, to have the voices of people with disabilities be heard. So that's what I did, and that's what I continue to do during this day.
That's great. And, Jason's being a bit modest here. His film work is wildly celebrated, really great stuff. But I know that he wants to focus on his nonprofit in this episode. So hopefully we can listen to that part, especially. Question three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, so I guess it really comes back to my filmmaking background, that like I was a filmmaker since my days. I went to college called Emily Carr, and that's how Thomas and I know ourselves, each other. But I was there, and I graduated with a film called Olivia's Puzzle, but that quickly brought me to New York. I was started like embedding myself into the system of like the film system, and I went to Sundance with that same film, showed it on HBO, and that's when I really began living and breathing in New York City. And I was doing that, did a couple more films. I made a film about post 9/11, against people that are South Asian, Arab, and Muslim, called Lest We Forget. But then I was diagnosed with MS, and I turned it all around and said, well, if I'm going to continue with this career path, I'm going to use it as a way to help other people in my situation. And that's what I did. So I continued making films, but continued allowing other people to tell their own stories. And so we make films, and then we also make, I have a new media project called AXS Map. So it's a mapping tool which is available all around the world, powered by Google Places. So that's called AXSMap.com. But through that, you can find all the places that are wheelchair accessible around you, no matter where you live.
That's great. And I love the simplicity of your message that you're a successful filmmaker, and you've pioneered this nonprofit. I mean, those two pieces are so critical in communicating your message, and I love it.
Thanks.
Number 5, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I thought about that quite a bit, actually. And I think the answer to that is, like, I live in New York City because I feel like it's the best place for me to live as a person with a disability. So people don't really realize it, but it's really difficult to function properly in society as a person with a disability unless you really have the money to really function. Like, I live in New York City. I have like my own place. I need 24/7 care. So I have care aides that come to help me at my house, but all that is paid for by the government. Now, if I was in Canada, I would have to be in a nursing home, or I wouldn't have to be in a nursing home, but or I'd need to have the the expenses paid for by either family members, or I'd have to find some way to get the minimum amount of care that I deserve. So in Canada, I know it's like I know because I live there. So 8 to 10 days, 10 hours a day. And then in certain parts of the states, it's as low as 6 hours a day. So you would get 6 hours a day, or in Canada, that's in BC, it would be 8 to 10 hours a day of care. And then the rest of the time, you'd be stuck. So to wrap it all around, the reason why I'm here in New York City is New York is it's very unique in the way that it allows you to have 24/7 care paid for by the government. So I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be a functioning filmmaker and be running a nonprofit if I wasn't living in New York City.
I love that, and I love the generosity of that message, to people out there who could be in New York City, but maybe don't know it. I think that's great.
Yeah, it's on that, like it's really crazy. Like, I was living in New York. I was so I was diagnosed here, but then I moved back to BC to do my master's degree at Emily Carr, then came back afterwards when I realized that the level of healthcare is not that great in Canada versus New York City. Now I don't want to say that like it's better in all the states. That's not true. but it is better in New York City. So that's one thing that people should know about.
And it's an important message too, right? Because I think when people are checking out your videos on YouTube, they're probably wondering how you manage to have a life like that. And it's great that the state supports it in that way.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
yeah. Number 6, if you had to start from scratch, what advice would you give your former younger self?
I would say that it's all gonna work out, and then just keep like pushing forward.
Mm,
And that's like really what I've always done anyways. But I would tell my former self, like, just keep on. You're on the right path. Just keep on going. It's all gonna work out. It's gonna be tough, but it's gonna work out.
I love that. Number 7, what's a day in your life like?
Oh my god, okay. It's always generally I try and keep it all consistent because I enjoy the work that I do. Like like I really don't go on vacation much or anything like that because I enjoy what I do. And like if I do go on vacation, it's like something that's like some kind of work related thing, or I go someplace just for a little while. For the most part, I stick here because I really enjoy what I do. So I wake up in the morning and then I just start working at the office or on the computer, and I continue with my film career or running the nonprofit. It's really not that complicated. It's I enjoy what I do, so it's nice.
Nice. Number 8, lifelong learning is a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
I think I listen to podcasts and news a lot. So that really keeps me up to date with what's going on. I read a lot of books as well and watch movies, but for the most part, I say that the biggest thing that I do is listen to podcasts and news.
That's great. And just a note for our audience, if you're listening to your first episode with us right now, you lucked out because we're at episode number 30 today. It's a big milestone for us.
Well, wow, it's huge.
Yeah. Number 9, what tools do you use? Are you more digital? Are you analog at all?
Yeah, so I saw your questions. Do I consider myself a digital nomad? So I didn't really know what that meant exactly, but the more that I read about it and like listened to some news about it, like I really am a digital nomad. So like just like where I really figured out a way to use all the digital techniques for all the work that I do on the computer or using things like my drives. And the one thing that I don't do is I have these massive amounts of hard drive space that I need for my movies. So those I keep to actually keep like hard copy drives that
Hmm.
it is digital though, but it's digital, but it's analog in the way that you do need to have like these massive hard drives, and I keep them when I use them every day.
When people ask me if I have a pen and paper, I kind of panic a little bit and start my mind starts racing. Where am I going to find a pen and paper? I'm so
Oh yeah.
digital. Yeah. Number 10, how do you deal with work-life balance?
Hold on, going back to that digital native question. So I think that I've used becoming digital native as like something that's critical to continuing working. Because I could only I don't so I'm fully quadriplegic, so I don't I have no like pen and paper,
Mm,
but I do have like my voice is strong. So I do have I speak and I use like an audio reader. So those things actually keep me working. If I didn't have those, I wouldn't be able to continue. So like if I was earlier, maybe 20, 30 years ago, I wouldn't have had that option. So the reason why I can keep on doing what I do is really because of the digital nomad and like all the digital things that we've become accustomed to now.
that's super interesting. Yeah, I've also been very interested in how voice plays such a big role now, especially compared to how it used to be.
Yeah, that's right.
Number 11, if you weren't doing what you do now, what would you be doing?
I don't know what I would do if I didn't do what I'm doing now. So so it would be very different. I think that maybe I wouldn't be in film. So maybe I would still be an artist, but in another medium.
Mm,
I just have no idea.
mm,
I maybe I would make films about disability. I think that that's as I would like to say it. I would like to say that I would be working around disability because it's important.
mm,
But I don't think if I was diagnosed with MS, if I wasn't diagnosed, I wouldn't be doing work around that, which is sad because I think that it's important and I think people should really try to be empathetic and put themselves in somebody else's shoes. But I know I was 25 when I was diagnosed, and being as young as it was, the last thing that I really would have thought about is being somebody who would serve other people with disabilities.
see.
Mm.
Number 12, what would you not like to do, particularly with your career?
So like what do you mean? So like what would you not like to do?
Like, are there certain kind of um, aspects of filmmaking that you don't like that maybe you wouldn't want to do as much, or are you more inclined to kind of conceptual work as opposed to like production work or anything like that?
Oh yeah, so that's a really good example. So production work versus like editing or like conceptual work or
Mm,
like storytelling.
mm,
I love that stuff more.
mm,
I don't like getting behind the camera, as weird as it sounds,
mm,
but I don't like really getting into deep production.
mm,
I would much rather come up with the story or even do post production, so doing the editing stuff afterwards.
interesting.
I think that I like it like the best way to say it's called like in old production terms, it's called in the can. So
Mm,
I like it when things are been shot and they're finished and they're in the can.
mm. Cool. Number 13, what's your favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Oh, I thought about this. So like my favorite quote was by Bertolt Brecht. So the esteemed playwright. So he said, I'm just trying to remember it. Like he was said, one should not fear that, but rather one should fear a life that is not used properly. So
Mm,
that a life that is not actually functioning properly.
mm,
So not actually doing what he's saying is really that you're not doing what you inclined to do with your life.
mm.
So that's what the most important thing is. to try and find positivity and be happy with what you're doing with your life.
Yeah, I like that. Number 14, what's your least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Yeah, hold on a sec. Looks like you want me to ask. Hold on, I'm just gonna wipe my nose. That's funny. So like what's my least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that I love the English language. I don't think that I have a word in English that or a sentence, or I'm sure there's something, but I can't think of anything offhand.
Okay. And 15, if you had to pick one word to describe yourself, what would you choose?
I think unstoppable. That's like a good way. I mean, as cool and romantic as it sounds, I don't think that somehow managed to find ways to go against the things that I thought would stop me in my tracks. So I would say unstoppable.
It sounds like a film title,
Yeah,
Unstoppable.
yeah, it does.
16, what keeps you up at night?
So you know what? I thought about this. So what keeps me up at night is really like so my son is not living with me in New York. Like his mom took him to Texas, and it's done through like the legal systems within the US. They have it in Canada and all around the world. Like there's systems that are in place that are really so unjust. So like the Justice Department and finding the the systems that be are not they don't say that, well, they're actually not as just as what they would say. So it's called the Justice Department, but really there's so many different intricacies to it that it's not exactly, without going deep into detail, it's that's really what keeps me up at night, is like the fact that my son is not in my life, but I have to be okay with trying to keep on without him.
Final stretch, number 17, what's a dream you're chasing?
The dream that I'm chasing is I'm striving for a world that is 100% accessible. So I want to see a world that we all live in where accessibility and disability are solved. 100% accessibility would mean that it would be easier for people with disabilities to get around wherever they have to go.
That's powerful. Number 18, what inspires you?
Yeah, so what inspires me is people that overcome the challenges of accessibility.
Mhm.
So that's why I do what I do. So that's why AXS Lab exists. So we can continue to create inspirational stories to help people with disabilities to be able to tell stories and continue telling the stories of people like them.
19, any advice you'd like to share?
I think the biggest advice would be just keep on, like for all people, general or with disabilities, keep on, keeping on, because really you don't know what will open up for you if you don't try.
And number 20, and I really hope for the audience that we do these things. How can our listeners keep tabs on you? How can we follow you?
Oh yeah, so thanks. So the best way to get a hold of me is to check me out on Facebook. Check me out I'm on Twitter as well. So my handles are like Jason DaSilva. Also on LinkedIn. You can find me there or look up the organization AXS Lab. That's spelled AXS Lab. We do very important nonprofit work, and we will keep doing that to serve people with disabilities through media and technology.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jason. You can read your Wikipedia and, it says you're a disability rights activist, but I don't think that really does it justice. Here listening to you respond to these questions, I really kind of felt the impetus and the power behind the messages that you're trying to convey. I think it's great work you're doing. I'm really glad I'm glad you're here today.
So yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, I'm not gonna be stopping. So yeah, let's just keep on doing what we do.
Great. Thanks so much, Jason.
Yeah, thank you very much, Thomas.